So let's dig into one of the most important and often overlooked areas when it comes to building websites, and that is ongoing maintenance, backups, and making sure that you've got everything in place that should something go wrong, you can easily manage it. Also, we're going to take a look at easy ways of managing multiple different websites. We'll come on to that in a moment. Now, with anything to do with website maintenance, backups are one of the key things you want to do. And as I've talked about in the past, we need to do it in more than one way. Having a simple setup is okay, but things can go wrong. So I always recommend having some level of redundancy. Now, let me just show you one of the easiest ways to get started, and we'll expand it as we go through the video. So one of the first and simplest things you want to do is make sure you've got a backup system in place that'll set up backups and push those over remotely. Now, what do I mean by remotely? I mean, you take them off the server that hosts your websites and you put them somewhere else. Because if something goes wrong, you've always got access to those backups and you can quickly restore things very easily. So the easiest way to do it is by using a plugin inside WordPress, and the one that I generally tend to use is WPvivid Backup. Absolutely free, and I'm going to show you how you can set it up and how you can configure things from a very, very basic point of view. You can go a lot further, but let's just keep things simple in this video. So I've already installed the plugin, and all we're going to do is come into, first of all, the settings section. So this might look a little daunting to start off with, but the only thing we really need to worry about right now is where we're going to put our files. So if we come over to the remote storage tab, inside here you can see we've got Google Drive, Dropbox, Microsoft OneDrive, and so on, even FTP and SFTP. So you can easily set those backups to go off to a different location. I generally tend to use Dropbox, and I use a free account, but you can use whatever you want inside here. All you need to do is choose the one you want, choose to authenticate it, and follow the instructions there. Once you've got that set up on your choice, you are then connected to that external source and ready to set things up to create backups. Now, we can do backups in two different ways. We can automate it so it'll happen every single day, week, whatever you want to set it up to, or we can also create manual backups. So if you're doing something, you want to make sure you've got a backup in place before you make those changes, which you should do, we can do that here as well. If we come over to the backup and restore, you can see there's a big backup now button, and we can choose what we want to back up, whether we want to back up database and files, WordPress files, or just the database only. And you can choose where you want that backup to go. By default, because we haven't set up any remote storage in this example, I can save it to local, which will save it onto the server where my site resides, or I can send it over to remote storage, and then I just configure it like I've just shown you. So let's say we'll set this up to go to local for now. All I need to do is click the Backup Now button, and that will start the backup process. Depending upon the size of your site, this can take a few moments to several minutes. Once it's done and finished, you have a backup in place. And there we go, all done. And as you can see, there's my backup, and if I want to restore it, I can click the restore button, and bang, within a few moments, my site will be back up and running directly inside you. Or if we set this up to go to remote, we'll have the same set of options. It will just be a remote version. Now, next up, schedule. Obviously, we want to have backups running on a frequency. So what we can do is we can say enable backup schedule, and then we can choose from 12 hours daily, weekly, fortnightly, or monthly, depending again upon the type of site you have. If you have e-commerce, for example, you probably want to do this very regularly. If you have something like a blog which updates every week or two, well, choose something that makes sense for you there. So we'll leave this set to daily, and again, like we saw, we can choose what we want to back up and where we want to back up to, and hit save changes, and then every single day, week, month, whatever it is, those backups will be in place and created for us, and we can then choose to restore them if something goes wrong. So in this portion of the video, we're going to take a look at a new feature that Cloudways have introduced, who've kindly sponsored this portion of the video. And this new feature is the Site Manager for WordPress. Now, before we go any further, I'm just going to show you how this works. I'm not going to express any opinions. As always, anything that's sponsored on this channel, I will demonstrate how these features work so you can make an informed decision as to whether this is something you want to take a look at yourself. So, what exactly is the Site Manager for WordPress? Well, as its name suggests, it allows you to manage your site. So you can do things like your backups and so on inside your control panel, but you can also handle things like update your WordPress plugins, your themes, add new themes or plugins. You can configure and handle a lot of different options here. There are two plans you have access to, free and a monthly paid plan. We'll take a look at both in this portion of the video. So let's log into our Cloudways dashboard, and inside there, we're going to hop over into Flexible, and we're going to open up My Applications. Now, My Applications in Cloudways terms is basically your website. So an application is a website, simple as that. And as you can see, I've got two websites here. One already has the free plan. The other one has no plan associated with it. So we'll take a look at the free plan first and then move on. So if we open this up from your application, come down to Site Manager and expand this, and there we've got some options. So we've got Overview, which will, as its name suggests, gives you an overview of the site. So the number of plugins you have installed versus activated, same with themes and users, what version of WordPress you're currently running. You can jump into WP Admin from here, manage your plans. So if you want to upgrade to the premium version or pro version, you can do. Then we've got a couple of pro features that are not available right now. And then we've got any updates we have for our site. So currently you can see I'm running an older version of Advanced Custom Fields. It tells me it's active and I can update it from here. Then if we hop into the Manage section, this breaks things down into your plugins, your themes, and your users. And this will show us all of the plugins currently installed, tells us whether they're active or inactive, any versions that need to be updated, and what version we're running of any of these. We can install plugins from here, and we can choose the three dots to deactivate, update, or delete that particular plugin. So for example, we've got Akismet Anti-Spam. It's not active, so let's just click the three dots and let's just say delete. And then this will pop up the delete, and the same kind of thing goes if we want to install a plugin and so on. We get a couple of ways which we can handle it. On the free plan, we have the quick install, quick delete, and so on. And on the pro or premium plan, we've got safe delete. Like I said, we'll come on to the pro features a little later. So we'll say quick delete is fine, hit the proceed. That will now go through and tell us what it's going to do. It will create a snapshot before we make any changes. So we've got that in place. And then it'll go through the process of, in this case, deleting the plugin, purging the cache to get rid of any kind of residual things. And then it'll finalize the management of that particular plugin. And as you can see, we are now done. We can hit done or manage plugins, and it'll take us back to that same part. Same thing goes if we come into themes. That will show us any themes we currently have installed, whether they're active or inactive, which is the currently active theme, and so on. And same thing goes for users. You can see there's my user, and we can easily add additional users and so on. So let's say you wanted to add a new plugin in. Let's say install a plugin. This time we're going to do something like, we'll do SEO Press for an SEO plugin, and we can choose to install that from here. You can see it tells us you can do the quick install. We'll say proceed. And that will kind of do the same thing as we saw with the delete. So we'll give that a few moments to complete. There we go. That's now completed. Took about 25 seconds. And we'll come into manage our plugins. And you can see we now have SEO Press installed, but obviously not activated because it's just going to install it. So you see now we can handle things one by one, but obviously that would be a little bit time consuming. So let's say we want to handle a couple of things at the same time. Let's say we'll choose these three plugins. And what we're going to do now is we can come to the actions, and from there we can choose what we want to do. Delete, update, deactivate, or activate. And then once you've chosen that, we'll say deactivate. You click apply. It will then go through the same process, but now for multiple plugins, themes, users, and so on. And if you want to handle your update from here, you can absolutely do that as well. So we can click update, say quick update, click proceed, and we are good to go. Now let's go and open up our sites again. So let's come back to our applications. And this time we're going to choose this site, which currently doesn't have any of those options available. So let's come into our site manager. So inside here, we've got the different plans. We've already seen the basic free plan and what that offers us. And that's perfectly fine if you've got some low traffic sites, low risk sites, and so on. However, if you want to go to the pro or premium version, you can see that's going to cost you $3 per app per month. So $3 per website. But it does open up additional features. So let's choose to get pro. That's going to take a few moments to apply that to our existing application and also set the billing side of things up for us. So I'll let that complete, and then we'll take a look at the additional options that the pro plan actually brings to the table. So after a few moments, we now have everything set up and configured. And as you can see, our dashboard now for Site Manager opens up some more options and some more information. So let's take a look now at managing. So we come in here. There's our basics. So let's come in and change what we don't want. So we don't want Hello Dolly, for example, and we don't want the Akismet. So we're going to choose those, choose our action to delete those and click apply. We're going to say we're going to safe delete this time. So it'll create a backup of your application and checks compatibility before deleting each plugin. Takes a little bit more time, but obviously gives you more peace of mind. So let's try that option. Now, while we let that run, there's a few more steps that I want to draw your attention to here when it comes to working with this more pro way. You can see we've got staging, and we also have production. So what's happening here is it's creating a staging copy of your website, running through the process of creating a snapshot, deleting those plugins, post snapshot to check everything. It's going to do visual regression to make sure that from a visual point of view, your site is still all working the way it should do before and after. And providing everything works okay there, there's no problems, it will then move on to do the same thing but on a production version of your site. So not a staging site, the actual live website. Gives you another level of peace of mind. So click on done, and we've now handled the removal of those. So that now has handled everything for us. You can see those plugins have been removed and our site is all still sorted. If you come into auto updates this time though, we now have some more options here that is pro only. Scheduling, visual regression, and notifications. So what exactly does this do? Well, scheduling, as its name suggests, we can set a schedule to handle automatic updates. Generally, I'm not the biggest fan of handling things automatically, but where you've got visual regression and you've got backups and all these things are being handled behind the scenes for you, it gives you an extra level of peace of mind over just letting WordPress update these automatically for you. So if we enable this, we can choose when we want to handle these updates. So we'll leave this at Mondays and we'll leave the time scale on there. That's perfectly fine. You can choose the update list. So you can choose what you want to actually update. So for example, you may not want to handle core WordPress updates. You might want to do that manually. Well, you can just uncheck that and that won't be updated when a new update comes out. Same thing goes for your plugins and your themes. So let's say we'll save the update configuration. Then what kind of updates do you want to do? We've got a safe update or quick update. Now we saw quick update just basically does a very quick way of doing it, which doesn't do the staging side of things. Whereas the safe update creates the staging, does the visual regression, and so on. Then you can see we've got critical updates. So if you have a plugin that has a critical vulnerability, you can tell it that it will override anything you set here, and it will update those when there's that kind of vulnerability there. This is good for core, themes, and plugins. So once you've got that done, we can hit Save Changes. You've configured it how you want. That's set up. Your visual regression, this allows you to choose what pages you want to check against. Now, visual regression will basically check visually before an update and after an update to see if there's any differences between the two. So you can add your pages from here, choose to add a page, choose what link you want to use, and then just set it to go and check that page. Once you've added those in, you can save and you have those visual regression pages set up. Then you've got your notifications and you can choose pre-notification, successful update, and aborted update. Generally, you're going to probably want to have all of those there so you know exactly what's going on, when there's going to be an update, making sure it's successful. And if something's happened, like it's been aborted, you will be notified that there's been a problem. Save your preferences, and you have your auto updates configured ready. Your activity logs, so as we start to get various different activities from our auto updates and so on, they'll be listed inside here. Then your history, as its name suggests, will show you the history of all the different things you've done. So you'll see your logs here once automatic or scheduled updates are executed. So we don't have any of those currently running. Once they are, we'll see information inside here. Now, what's worth noting here is that if you are using the Pro plan and it creates that staging and the backups and so on before it makes any updates, if you come into your backup and restore, it will show you any of those backups because it is part of the whole backup process included in your Cloudways sort of site manager account. So you can see there's the latest one we've got. So we know that that backup has been taken. And if I needed to restore that application now, I could do it here. So I've got an extra level of peace of mind, which kind of ties into the whole backups, updates, and processes that we've been talking about throughout this entire video. But that's why I'm going to wrap things up here. All applicable links for this are in the description down below. So if you want to check that out, please take a look down there. As always, my name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.